The alien marketplace was alive with sound, merchants shouting their prices, machines humming, and strange creatures moving through the crowd. In the middle of this noise, a small figure walked slowly. Her steps weak, her skin pale and dull under. The twin sons, she was just a child, but her eyes looked far older, as if she had already seen too much pain. Her name was Lyra. She had no parents to hold her, no friends to play with, only a cruel stepmother who had thrown her out, saying she was worthless to the people of her world. Family was everything, but to Lyra, family had become a curse. Her stepmother whispered lies to others, saying Lyra was cursed, unworthy of kindness, and soon the whole market believed it. When she begged for food, sellers laughed and pushed her away. When she tried to rest in corners, guards kicked her out. Still, she kept walking, her small hands clutching an empty bag that once carried bread. Her stomach growled, but she stayed silent. Tears burned her eyes, but she forced herself not to cry. She had learned that crying only made the laughter worse. As evening came, the market lights flickered on, bathing everything in a cold blue glow. Lyra found a dark alley where the smell of waste was strong. She curled up there, pressing her knees to her chest. Around her, shadows moved, hungry animals looking for scraps, but she stayed still, too weak to fight. Then she heard something different. Not the harsh alien voices she had grown used to, but a deep, steady tone, calm and strange. It was a man's voice, a human voice. She lifted her head slowly and saw him. He stood tall at the mouth of the alley, a figure wrapped in worn travel gear. His skin was different from the locals', his eyes sharper, colder, yet filled with something she had not seen in a long time, pity. He looked at her, not with disgust, but with concern. Lyra froze, unsure. Every time someone had looked at her before, it was only to mock or to push her away. Why would this strange human stop to notice her? The man did not move closer at first. He watched her with care, as if trying to understand what she was. He had heard whispers in the market about a cursed child, about a girl abandoned by her own kind. He had not believed in curses, but when he saw the small figure in the shadows, he understood the cruelty of the lies. "You're starving," the human said softly. His voice was rough, but not unkind. Lyra's lips trembled. She wanted to answer, but her throat was dry. She had not spoken to anyone in days. She only nodded, tiny and fearful. The man crouched down, slowly pulling something from his pack. It was a small container of human food, simple bread and dried meat. The smell made Lyra's heart ache with hunger. She wanted to run forward, but fear held her back. What if it was a trick? What if he laughed and pulled it away like the others always did? But he did not laugh. He set the food gently on the ground in front of her, then stepped back. His eyes stayed kind, his hands open, showing no threat. Lyra stared at the food, then at him. Her body shook with both hunger and doubt. Slowly, very slowly, she reached forward and picked up the bread. It was soft, warm, and real. She bit into it, and for the first time in many days, she tasted life again. Tears ran down her cheeks. She tried to hide them, but she could not stop. Her small voice broke out in a whisper. "Thank you." The human gave a small nod. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, afraid to speak. But then, quietly, she said, "Lyra." The name hung in the air, fragile and lonely. The man looked at her, his brow furrowed, and then he spoke his own name. Daniel. Lyra repeated it softly, as if testing the sound. It felt strange, but safe. From the shadows above, others in the market watched. Some shook their heads, whispering, "The fool. He helps the cursed one." Others laughed, sure that the human would soon regret it. But Daniel ignored them. His eyes stayed on the little girl before him. He saw not a curse, but a child abandoned, a lie crushed too early and deep inside. He felt something stir, The night grew colder. The market sounds faded. Lyra sat clutching the last piece of bread, her eyes fixed on Daniel. She could not understand why a human stranger would care when her own people did not. In her heart, a question formed, quiet and desperate. Could this man be different? Could he be the one to save her from this endless night? And as Daniel watched her, his mind carried its own question. Why does this little alien child make me feel like I cannot walk away? The stars above shimmered. Silent witnesses to a meeting that would change both their lives for the first time in a long while. Lyra did not feel invisible for the first time. She felt a small spark of hope. The story of the outcast child had just begun, and the universe itself seemed to pause, waiting to see what would happen next. The night passed slowly. The marketplace grew quiet as merchants closed their stalls and the blue lights flickered low. Daniel stayed near the alley, leaning against a wall, watching the little girl as she ate the last of the bread. He did not understand why he stayed. He had been a traveler, a man who moved from one world to another, never making ties, never letting anyone close. Yet here he was, still standing in the cold night beside an alien child. Lyra curled up, clutching her thin blanket of rags. Her eyes closed for a moment, but fear kept her awake. She was used to people walking away. She was used to being left alone, so even as her small heart wanted to believe this strange human would not leave, her mind whispered otherwise. By morning, voices filled the streets again. The suns rose, golden lights spilling over the crowded stalls. Daniel stepped back into the market to buy supplies, but whispers followed him. The locals pointed at him, muttering, "That is the human who touched the cursed girl. Foolish man, he will bring misfortune on himself." When Daniel returned with water and more food, he found Lyra awake. Sitting on the ground with her knees drawn to her chest, she looked up at him in surprise, as if she thought he would be gone forever. "You came back," she whispered. Daniel nodded, handing her the water. "Drink," he said. His voice was firm but gentle. Lyra obeyed, gulping quickly. Spilling some down her chin, he watched her, and something stirred deep in his chest, an ache he had not felt in years. As she finished, a group of alien guards marched past the alley. One stopped, glaring at Daniel. "Human," the guard barked. "Leave that child. She is not yours. She is a curse. You will regret this." Daniel's jaw tightened. He did not answer. He only stood taller, his hand resting near the weapon at his belt. The guards sneered but moved on, muttering to themselves. Lyra lowered her eyes, her voice small. "They're right. I only bring trouble. You should go before they hurt you." Daniel crouched down, meeting her eyes. "Listen, child, I don't care what they say. You're hungry, you're cold, and you're alone. That's reason enough for me to stay." Her lips parted in shock. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Every word he said sounded impossible, but it was real. That day, Daniel kept her close. He bought her a small cloak from the market to keep her warm. The seller laughed. "Wasting your money, human? That child is nothing but scrap." Daniel ignored the insult, wrapping the cloak around Lyra's shoulders as they walked together. People stared. Some spat on the ground. Some laughed. Look at him, a father to a curse. But Daniel kept walking. And Lyra held onto his hand, her tiny fingers gripping tight. She had never held a hand that felt safe before, and now she did not want to let go. By afternoon, Daniel found work carrying crates for a local trader. He needed credits to survive. And Lyra sat nearby, waiting patiently. Her eyes followed him everywhere. If he vanished into the crowd for even a moment, her heart raced in fear. That night, they found a place to sleep inside an abandoned storage room. The floor was hard, but it was dry. Lyra sat close to Daniel, her voice trembling as she finally asked, "Why do you help me? You don't know me." Daniel looked down at her. his face tired but calm. "Because I see you, Lyra, and no one else does." Her small chest tightened. Tears filled her eyes. She buried her face in the new cloak, whispering softly, "I wish you were my father." The words struck Daniel like a blade. For years, he had wandered, leaving behind memories of his own broken family. He had never expected to hear such a plea from an alien child on a strange world. Yet something inside him answered. Stronger than reason, stronger than fear. He put a hand gently on her head. "Then maybe I will be," he said. Outside, the city roared with life, but in that quiet room, something greater was born. Lyra's lonely heart finally found someone to believe in. And Daniel, though he had not planned, it took his first step into a role he never thought he would hold again. But whispers carried fast through the city. The stepmother, a powerful merchant, heard that the cursed child she had cast out was alive, and now under the care of a foolish human. Her anger burned. She would not allow it. She would not let the child she despised find comfort in someone else's arms. And so, as Lyra slept safely for the first time in years, danger moved closer. Unseen, the human had chosen the child. But soon he would face the full wrath of the world that had rejected her. The days that followed were not easy. Daniel worked where he could, lifting heavy crates, repairing machines, or running small errands for merchants. The pay was little, but enough to keep both himself and Lyra fed. At first, people stared whenever they passed. Some whispered curses, some mocked, but Daniel ignored them. His only concern was the girl who clung to his side. Lyra followed him everywhere, her small steps quick to match his stride. At first, she stayed quiet, as if afraid speaking. Too much would make him change his mind. But slowly, as the hours turned into days, she began to ask him questions, simple things. "Why are your eyes blue? Why is your skin different? Do humans always help children?" Daniel answered patiently. His voice was calm. Sometimes his answers made her smile, a real smile that lit up her tired face. For Daniel, it was a strange feeling. He had not heard a child laugh near him in many years. At night, they returned to the abandoned storage room. Daniel laid his cloak on the ground for her while he leaned against the wall. He told her stories of earth oceans that stretched farther than sight, forests filled with green, skies painted with birds. Lyra listened with wide eyes, whispering that she wanted to see those places. For the first time in her life, she dreamed of something bigger than pain. But not everyone was happy with their bond. Word spread quickly through the city. The stepmother, a wealthy merchant with sharp eyes and sharper lies, heard that the child she had thrown out now lived under the protection of a human. Her jealousy twisted into rage. If Lyra found a new family, her lies would be exposed. Her reputation stained, she swore she would crush them both, one evening. As Daniel and Lyra walked through the market, a group of aliens blocked their path. "Human," one sneered. "Why carry her like dead weight? She is cursed. Sell her to the pits. At least then, she'll have use." Daniel's hand tightened on Lyra's shoulder. His voice dropped low. "Step aside." The aliens laughed. But something in Daniel's eyes made them hesitate. They muttered and walked away. Still, Lyra trembled, gripping Daniel's hand. She whispered, "They'll never stop. You should leave me." But Daniel knelt before her, looking directly into her frightened eyes. "Listen, child, I will not leave you, no matter what they say. You're mine to protect now." The words struck deep inside her heart. She had never been anyone's to protect. She had always been someone to discard. But with Daniel's voice steady and true, she believed him that night. She dared to say the word she had only whispered to herself. "Father," she called him softly. Her voice cracked, but the meaning was clear. Daniel froze, his chest heavy with memories of his own lost family. Yet he did not push the word away. Instead, he reached out and pulled her close. "Then stay by my side, daughter," he whispered. The bond was sealed in that moment. Stronger than blood, stronger than law. But their peace was short-lived. The stepmother acted quickly, spreading new lies. She bribed the guards, telling them the human had stolen the child. Soon, patrols watched their movements. Their eyes filled with suspicion. Daniel noticed it. He saw the way guards lingered longer, the way merchants no longer trusted him. He kept his weapon close at all times. His instincts told him danger was coming. Lyra sensed it too. She had seen the stepmother's cruelty before. She knew the woman would not let her live happily. Fear returned to her small heart. But this time it was mixed with determination. She had someone worth fighting for now. One night, while Daniel worked on repairing his weapon, Lyra spoke in a trembling voice. "If they take me, don't fight. They'll kill you. I don't want you to die for me." Daniel looked at her sharply. "Don't ever say that," he growled, softer but firm. "No one will take you. Not while I live." Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. She believed him, though fear still gnawed at her, outside there. Shelter shadows moved. A messenger from the stepmother whispered to the guards. Soon, orders were given. Daniel and the girl were to be captured, but inside the small room, unaware of the plans. Lyra fell asleep, leaning against Daniel. For the first time, her dreams were not filled with hunger or pain. Instead, she dreamed of oceans and forests, of earth, of a place where no one would call her cursed. Daniel watched her sleep. His face hard, but his heart soft. He knew the storm was coming, but he also knew one thing: he would not give her up. Whatever darkness lay ahead, he would fight it, because in her eyes he had seen something he thought he had lost forever. A reason to stay, a reason to be more than a wanderer. The shadows outside grew longer. The stepmother's net was closing, but in that small room, under the broken roof and fading lights, a father's shadow stretched over the child, strong, unyielding, and ready for the battle that was to come. The city was restless. Rumors spread like fire. Every merchant in the market now knew the story: the cursed child was alive, and a human had taken her under his care. Some laughed, some spat in disgust, but others whispered in fear, afraid that the curse might spread if left unchecked. In her tall home above the merchant quarters, the stepmother sat in luxury. Her clothes shone with gold thread, her long fingers dripping with jewels. But her face twisted with anger as a servant reported the news. "That human walks with her in the open," the servant said, bowing low. "People see him feeding her, clothing her, even protecting her." The stepmother's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. That child was supposed to disappear. I made sure of it. And now? Now she dares to smile again. She dares to find comfort with an outsider." She slammed her hand against the table. Her wealth was nothing if her lies were uncovered. For years, she had told everyone Lyra was cursed, dangerous, unworthy. If the child lived a normal life, people would question everything. The stepmother's pride could not allow that. "Call the guards," she ordered. "Spread the story that the human has stolen her. Tell them he is dangerous. Tell them he plans to sell her for profit. They will not question me." The servants obeyed at once. Fear of their mistress was greater than any loyalty to truth. Soon, the city guards received the false orders. Patrols doubled, their eyes sharper, and whispers turned into official warnings. Daniel felt the change immediately when he entered the market. Stalls that once sold him food now closed their shutters. Merchants refused his credits. Guards followed him, their hands near their weapons. One night, 2 guards stopped him. "Human," one barked. "The child is not yours. Hand her over. She belongs to her kin." Daniel stood firm. Lyra hid behind him, trembling. He spoke with iron in his voice. "No, she belongs with me now." The guards exchanged glances. but Daniel's hand rested near his weapon. His stance carried the weight of someone who would fight if pushed. They decided not to test him that night. Instead, they returned to their commander, whispering that the human was dangerous. Inside their small shelter, Lyra sat close to Daniel, her small hands shaking. "They'll take me away, won't they?" she whispered. Daniel shook his head, his voice steady. "Not while I breathe," but his calm words could not erase her fear. She had seen the stepmother's power before. She knew the woman would not stop. Meanwhile, the stepmother was not done. Lies alone would not be enough. She called for hunters, skilled men who took coin to track and capture in the shadows of the city. She handed them a bag heavy with credits. "Bring me the child," she hissed. "Kill the human if you must. But do not let her slip away again." The hunters accepted, their eyes cold, their weapons sharp, back in the market. A small act of kindness changed the course of things. An old merchant who had once known Lyra's real mother whispered too, "Daniel, they spread lies about you. Beware. The stepmother has power here. If you stay, they will crush you both." Daniel thanked him. Though his heart was heavy, he had hoped to stay quiet, unnoticed. But now he saw the truth. If he remained in the city, Lyra would never be safe. That night, he prepared their few belongings. Lyra clutched the cloak he had given her, eyes wide with worry. "Are we running again?" she asked softly. "Yes," Daniel answered. "But this time, we run together. And we fight if we must." She swallowed hard, fear battling with trust. She had lived her life running, always alone. But now, at least, she was not alone anymore. They left under the cover of darkness, slipping through alleys, moving like shadows. But the hunters were already on their trail. Silent footsteps followed them. Blades gleamed in the moonlight. As they reached the outer gates of the city, Daniel felt the danger close in. His instincts sharpened. His hand reached for his weapon. Lyra tugged his sleeve, whispering, "They're here." Daniel gave a grim nod, pulling her close. He knew the stepmother's plot had reached its peak. She had unleashed hunters to tear apart what little life they had built. But he also knew one truth: a child was his now, and he would fight to the very end to keep her safe. In the shadows of the gate, steel clashed, footsteps thundered. The hunters made their move. And so, in the dark of night, the real battle for a family began. The gates of the city loomed tall and heavy, guarded by walls of metal and stone. Daniel and Lyra moved quickly through the shadows, hoping to slip away unseen. But the night air carried more than silence. It carried danger. The hunters had followed them. 6 figures moved like wolves in the dark, their eyes fixed on their prey. They did not shout, they did not warn. They only stalked, waiting for the right moment to strike. Daniel sensed it, his instincts sharpened from years of wandering hostile worlds. He tightened his grip on Lyra's hand, whispering low, "Stay close, don't let go." Her small fingers clung tighter. Her wide eyes darted around. She had always feared the city. But now the night outside the walls felt even worse. They slipped through a side gate where a guard had been bribed to look away. The city lights faded behind them, replaced by the endless stretch of wild lands. The ground was rough, filled with sharp rocks and patches of strange glowing plants. In the distance, dark hills rose under the pale twin moons. The hunter struck. A flash of steel cut through the night as one lunged forward. Daniel spun, pulling Lyra behind him. His weapon blazed with a sharp crack, driving the attacker back. The silence of the wild shattered. The other hunters charged, their boots pounding the dirt. Lyra screamed as one came too close. Daniel fought with precision, his body moving with trained skill. Each strike was for survival, each step taken to shield the child. But there were too many. He could not fight forever. He shouted, "Run, Lyra! Run to the hills!" Her legs trembled, but she obeyed. Sprinting toward the dark slopes, Daniel fought to follow, cutting down another hunter before turning to chase after her. The hunters spread, chasing them both. Their voices echoed in the night. Cruel and eager, the child first, the human can wait. Lyra's heart pounded. Her cloak flapped behind her as she raced. She stumbled, nearly falling, but pushed herself up. She remembered the secret paths of the outer land, places she had seen long ago when she had been forced to gather scraps for her stepmother. Her memory guided her feet. Here, she gasped as Daniel caught up. This way. They plunged into a narrow ravine, the walls rising high on either side. The hunters followed, their torches flickering behind. Daniel and Lyra pressed forward, breathing hard. Their shadows stretched long under the moons. At the end of the ravine, a cave yawned open, dark and deep. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her inside. They crouched in silence, listening. As footsteps grew closer, Lyra clutched his arm, whispering, "They'll find us. Father, they'll find us." Daniel placed a finger to his lips. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "Not if we're smarter," he said quietly. He pulled a small device from his belt, a human flare. He set it at the cave's entrance and pressed a button. In an instant, bright red light exploded outward. Blinding the hunters who rushed near, they shouted. Stumbling, their torches fell. "Now," Daniel whispered, pulling Lyra deeper into the cave. They moved quickly through winding tunnels. Guided only by faint bioluminescent moss that glowed green on the walls, the deeper they went, the quieter it became, until finally, only their breathing filled the space. They stopped near an underground stream. Daniel allowed Lyra to drink. Her small body shook with exhaustion. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "They won't stop, will they?" Daniel looked at her, his face grim. "No, they won't. Not until they have you, or until I stop them." Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed her forehead against his arm, whispering, "I don't want you to get hurt because of me." Daniel placed a hand gently on her head. "Listen, Lyra, you are not a curse. You are not worthless. You are mine now, and I will protect you, no matter the cost." The words wrapped around her heart like a shield. For the first time, she believed she had someone who would never abandon her. But outside, the hunters recovered. Their leader snarled, his eyes burning with greed. "The stepmother will pay double if we bring her back alive. Track them through the caves. They cannot hide forever." The chase was far from over. Hours later, Daniel and Lyra emerged from the cave into the open wild. The land spread before them, rolling hills, forests of jagged black trees, and far mountains under the pale moons. Strange animal cries echoed in the distance. The wilderness was dangerous, but it was also freedom. Daniel took a deep breath, scanning the horizon. His hand never left his weapon. He knew the hunters would come again. But he also knew the wild gave him a chance. Here, far from the city's lies, he could fight on his own terms. Lyra slipped her small hand into his, her voice soft but strong. "We'll make it, Father. I know we will." Daniel glanced down at her, her eyes shining with both fear and courage. He gave a small nod. "Yes, we will. Together." They walked into the dark wild lands, hunted, outnumbered, but unbroken. The flight had only begun, and their enemies would soon learn that truth nothing was more dangerous than a human protecting his child. The wild lands were unforgiving. Jagged rocks cut through the earth. Strange glowing plants hissed when touched, and beasts howled in the distance. Daniel and Lyra pressed forward, moving from shadow to shadow, hoping to stay ahead of the hunters. But every step was heavy with danger. Lyra walked close to him, her small cloak torn from the run. Her eyes were tired, but her spirit burned brighter than before. She no longer felt like a weak outcast clinging to life. She felt like part of something. She felt like a daughter. But the hunters were skilled. They followed tracks, broken branches, and footprints in the dust. By the third night, their torches burned behind the hills, slowly closing the gap. Daniel knew they could not run forever. Sooner or later, they would have to fight. He stopped on a ridge, scanning the land. Below stretched a valley where a stream cut through the rock. He saw narrow ground, a place where numbers would not matter. A place where he could stand. "We'll fight here," he said. Lyra's heart jumped. Fight, but there are so many. Daniel placed his hand on her shoulder, steady and strong. "I've fought worse. And I won't be alone. I'll have you." Her eyes widened. "Me? Yes. You know this land. You are clever. You'll help me in ways they will never expect." 4. The first time Lyra did not feel useless. She nodded, swallowing her fear. That night, Daniel prepared. He set traps along the narrow path, sharp rocks hidden under leaves. Ropes stretched to trip the hunters. Even small snares he had learned to build in his travels. Lyra helped, carrying stones, placing sticks, whispering her own ideas. Together, they shaped the ground into a battlefield. When the hunters came, the night exploded. Torches glowed red as shadows poured into the valley. Blades flashed. Voices roared. Daniel moved like lightning. His weapon cracked, each strike precise. A hunter fell, then another. The traps snapped. Ropes tightened. Men stumbled. But more came. Daniel fought fiercely. His breath sharp, his body strong. Yet they were many. One slashed his arm, blood dripping down. Another knocked him back. His knees hit the dirt. "Father," Lyra screamed. Her small voice cut through the chaos. She grabbed a rock and threw it, striking a hunter in the face. He staggered. Daniel rose again, fueled by her courage. His blade cut deep. The hunter snarled. "The girl, take the girl." They charged toward her. Lyra's heart pounded. She ran toward the stream, just as Daniel had taught her. A hunter followed. But he slipped on the trap she had helped set, crashing into the trap. Crashing into the rocks, she turned back, eyes blazing. She would not be taken again. Daniel fought with renewed fury. Every time his strength wavered, he heard her voice shouting, calling him father, reminding him why he could not fall. His strikes grew. Stronger, sharper, his will unbreakable. When the dust cleared, 3 hunters lay broken. The others limped away, retreating into the shadows. The valley was silent again, except for the sound of Daniel's heavy breath. Lyra ran to him, clutching his arm. "You're hurt," she cried. Her eyes filled with tears as she saw the blood. Daniel smiled faintly through the pain. "It will heal. You see, together we can win." But the battle was not over. A cold voice echoed from the ridge above. "So this is what you've chosen, child, to cling to a human instead of your own blood." Lyra froze, her body stiffened. She knew that voice too well. Her stepmother stood above them, wrapped in fine robes, her eyes sharp with cruelty. Behind her marched more guards. "Armored and ready, you cannot escape me." The stepmother hissed, "I gave you nothing, and nothing is what you will remain. That human is a fool. He will die for protecting you." Daniel stepped forward, blood on his arm. His voice steady. "She is mine now, not yours, not your toy, not your slave. She is my daughter." The stepmother laughed. "Your daughter, she is cursed, she is filth. Do you truly think you can change what she is?" Lyra trembled, but then something inside her broke free. For so long she had lived in fear, believing her stepmother's lies, but now, standing beside Daniel, she felt stronger. Her voice rang out, clear and fierce. "I am not cursed. I am not nothing. I am his daughter, and he is my father." Her words silenced even the guards. The stepmother's eyes burned with fury. But Daniel's heart filled with pride. The guards hesitated, some lowering their weapons. Doubt flickered in their eyes. For years, they had believed the stepmother. But the courage of the small child and the human beside her shook their certainty. Daniel raised his weapon. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me, the stepmother's." Sneer faltered. She realized that the bond between them was stronger than her lies, stronger even than fear, for the first time. She felt the ground slipping from under her power. The valley grew still, the hunters gone, the guards uncertain, and the stepmother's voice trembling with rage. The battle for family was not only of blades, it was of truth, and in that truth, Daniel and Lyra had already won. The valley was silent after the clash. The hunters were gone. The guards stood in hesitation, and the stepmother's face twisted with rage. Her fine robes shimmered in the moonlight. But her power felt weaker now, the words of a small child had cracked her lies. Daniel stood tall, his weapon steady. His arms still bled from the fight, but his stance was unshaken. Lyra stood close beside him, her small body trembling but her voice brave. She had spoken the truth for the first time, and no fear could silence it again. The stepmother shouted at the guards, "Take them! Obey your mistress! Seize the child, kill the human!" But the guards hesitated. Their eyes darted between Daniel, the fearless human, and the little girl who clung to him with fierce courage. For years, they had believed the stepmother's lies. They had treated Lyra as cursed. But now, looking at her defiance and her human protector, doubt spread among them like fire. One guard lowered his weapon. "She is only a child," he muttered. Another followed, shaking his head. The stepmother's control began to crumble. "You fools!" she screamed. "She will bring ruin. She is a stain. I cast her out because she was worthless." Lyra stepped forward, her voice rising strong. "You cast me out because you were afraid. Afraid that I would remind people of my real mother, afraid that they would see your cruelty. You called me cursed, but the only curse was your heart." The words struck like arrows. Even the guards turned their eyes away from the stepmother. Ashamed to have followed her for so long, Daniel's voice rumbled low. "You lost her the moment you threw her away. She is mine now. She is my daughter, and no one will ever take her from me." The stepmother's face burned red. She opened her mouth to scream again, but no sound came. Her power was gone. Her lies stripped bare under the stars. With one last glare of hatred, she turned and fled into the night. Her guards scattering after her, none willing to fight the human who had stood unbroken. Silence fell, broken only by the wind. Daniel lowered his weapon. Breathing heavy, Lyra clung to him, her eyes wet but her face glowing with relief. "Is it over?" she whispered. Daniel knelt and pulled her into his arms. "Yes, child. It's over. You're safe now, for the first time in her life." She believed it. Days passed, and words spread across the market and beyond. The story of the human who protected the cursed child traveled quickly. But with the story came change. Merchants who once mocked her now lowered their eyes in shame. Some offered food, some whispered apologies. The curse had been broken, not by magic, but by truth and courage. Lyra walked through the streets with her head higher than ever before. Daniel's shadow beside her. No longer did she hide. No longer did she cower. When she passed, whispers rose, but they were no longer of scorn. They were whispers of respect. Still, Daniel knew they could not remain in the city. Too many enemies, too many memories of pain. He prepared for travel again, but this time he was not alone. Lyra helped pack supplies, her small hands steady, her eyes full of excitement. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice curious. Daniel looked at the stars. "Anywhere, everywhere. The galaxy is wide, and we'll find a place that feels like home." She smiled, clutching his hand. As long as I'm with you, it will be home. They set out. Leaving the city behind, the wild lands stretched before them, dangerous yet filled with promise. They crossed hills, rivers, and plains. Daniel taught her to read the stars, to set traps, to stay hidden. She learned quickly. Her steps became stronger, her spirit brighter. One night, they camped beneath a sky full of glittering stars. Lyra sat by the fire, her cloak wrapped around her. She looked at Daniel. Her voice soft but sure. You saved me, but you gave me more than food, more than shelter. You gave me a name again. You gave me a father. Daniel looked at her, the firelight in his eyes. And you gave me something I thought I lost. You gave me a reason to fight, a reason to stay. She smiled, a smile pure and unbroken. For years, she had been unwanted, unloved, cast aside. But now she belonged. She was not a curse. She was not worthless. She was a daughter. The stars above watched silently as they sat together. Father and child, the galaxy was still filled with danger. Still filled with trials, but they would face it together. Hand in hand, Lyra leaned against him, whispering as her eyes closed, "We'll be all right, won't we?" Daniel placed his arm around her, firm and protective. "Yes, child, we will. No matter what comes, we'll always be all right." And so, in the endless night, under a sky of infinite stars, a new beginning was written. Not of curses, not of cruelty, but of family. For she was no longer an outcast. She was his daughter, and humanity had given her a home.